Hey everyone, and welcome to SkillCap's guide on dealing with plateau. In this video, we'll show you the significance and the ways of getting out of one. Getting out of a plateau will make games more meaningful and fun while allowing you to improve in a shorter period of time, which is what we all want, right? First, we'll be going over what it means to be getting stuck at a plateau, and then we'll swap our focus on how plateaus can hinder development of skill. Last, we'll go over concrete ways to get out of a plateau. So what does it mean to get stuck at a plateau? First, let's uncover what it is. A plateau, or more specifically a performance plateau, is when you're not making progress or improving. In other words, your skill level is not increasing. So this idea of practice makes perfect is only partially true, it seems. In order to get to a certain level of skill, you do in fact need to practice a lot. However, once you hit a plateau, no matter how many games you play, you won't improve. That's because hitting a plateau means you are now unable to recognize areas that you can improve on. There are no limits to players like us, only plateaus. In other words, you will almost never run out of things to learn in League of Legends, but once you lose the ability to recognize what you need to work on, you will be stuck at the same skill level. So it turns out that our procedural memory is the culprit. Our procedural memory stores information on how to perform certain tasks. It can be as simple as walking or as complex as playing a champion in League of Legends. Procedural memory is an example of implicit memory. And implicit memory takes previous experiences regarding the task and unconsciously aids the performance of said task. This is essentially how we learn. To learn or acquire new skills, there are 3 learning stages the brain goes through. The first one is the cognitive phase. This is where you intellectualize the task and explore ways of performing said task. We break the task down and experiment on it. We then make many mistakes along the way and start to acquire the knowledge on that task. Next, we move into the associative phase. This is where we transition from what to do to how. You get better at the task and improve by practice. This is where practice is extremely important and reinforces the knowledge into our gameplay. Our mistakes start to dwindle compared to the mistakes made in the cognitive phase. Last, we move into the autonomous phase. This is where we turn ourselves on autopilot. We practice the task so many times that there is very little thinking involved. In other words, we've created a habit. The actions just naturally come to us. This is something we need as humans because, as it turns out, we can't multitask. More specifically, we can't split our attention on multiple things at a time. However, with multiple habits built, every time we encounter something new, a variable we haven't been exposed to yet, it can receive our full attention because everything else runs on autopilot. For example, imagine you just started playing the game again. You have to learn so many things. Clicking on a target, using QWER to use abilities, and using your mouse to move your map. It's extremely overwhelming and you can't focus on more than one thing at a time. Maybe you can move your map around, but in doing so, you now can't move your mouse back to the place you wanted to click. Now imagine trying to learn how to flash an enemy ability. In the midst of so many things to learn, it would be extremely hard to learn how to flash an enemy ability. But imagine yourself now. You can move your map, move around, and use abilities with almost no thinking involved. Now, flashing over an enemy ability becomes extremely easy. Unfortunately, this is also the cause of something called OK plateau. We are okay at the task, we're okay at last hitting, but not exceptional at it. Now, let's take a look at a visual demonstration of plateauing and how it can hinder the development of skill. We'll put time on one axis and skill on the other. When we're beginning to play League, our skill level stays constant for some period of time. This is the cognitive phase. After gathering information and understanding of the game, we start to improve. This is the associative phase, where practicing makes a lot of difference. Then we reach the OK plateau, or the autonomous phase. You can practice all you want in an OK plateau, but it will hinder your development of skill. This is because you've already built your habit and nothing short of rebuilding that habit will help you improve. We'll talk about moving past an OK plateau in the next section. So once we pass the OK plateau, you start improving all the way to expert. This is obviously what we're shooting for. This applies to everything in League of Legends and not just the players who are new to this game. It can be learning a new role, champion, etc. These results are consistent for everything. So what else can cause OK plateau? The other thing is the Dunning-Kruger effect, one of the cognitive biases. Cognitive bias can be described as our own reality that is different from the norm or a deviation from the normal reality. We see things differently than others, and more specifically, the Dunning-Kruger effect is an illusion of superiority. This affects many people in our society, and those people tend to overestimate the level of their ability. According to the Dunning-Kruger effect, these incompetent people make poor choices, and what's worse is that they're unaware of making these poor choices. They look at external factors and avoid focusing on themselves, which, as we have and will learn, is a detriment to improvement. So just to be safe, we can assume that we are incompetent and limit and focus on external factors and evaluate our own gameplay in order to improve. So far, we talked about the psychological aspect and how our development of skill suffers. Now let's explore how we can get out of a plateau. More specifically, let's talk about some tips to getting out of a plateau. First is careful self-evaluation, like watching that game where we got stomped in lane. This way, we can assess our own gameplay and come up with questions that might trigger ways to get out of a plateau. This is extremely helpful because we bring our conscious mind to the table and get out of autopilot, allowing us to accurately pinpoint places to improve. You may have noticed that you're much more inclined to criticize gameplay from the outside, say a streamer, thinking he could have done this better and this better. But how many times have you done that to yourself while you're in game? Probably not very often. The second thing is stepping outside of our comfort zone and taking risks. Do you recall a recent time in which you questioned whether you should have flashed for a kill or not? Did you actually take that risk? Well, if your answer is no, I actually invite you to flash the next time you're in a similar situation. The worst thing that might happen is dying or wasting a summoner spell, but if you've watched our guide on Tilt, you should be ready to still dominate the game. However, the potential benefits of actually taking that risk outweigh the cons. By flashing, you will learn key information regarding the situation in Champion that you can refer to unconsciously after many games. People who actually main one champion only know the ins and outs of that champion because they've played so many games. They've encountered so many different situations, and by doing so, the next time they're in these situations, they can decide what to do with ease. As a follow-up tip, allow yourself to fail and study those failures. This way you can come up with questions such as, what went wrong and what should I have done there? This will give you a great perspective on how to improve your gameplay. The next step, lose your sense of entitlement, as this can be a precursor to the Dunning-Kruger effect. Thoughts such as, I'm so much better than my opponent, or how am I stuck in gold, can really inhibit our performance and ability to self-evaluate. Also, don't waste too much time on that miracle one-step gameplay technique or style to get yourself out of the plateau. If you don't know what you need in order to get out of a plateau, go back to the basics to retrieve new data and insights. Push these new insights into your procedural memory, which slowly changes how you autopilot a certain task. Basically, be your own scientist. Collect more data, analyze this data, come up with techniques, and most importantly, test them. As a closing tip, diversify your champion pool. There's key information hidden in every champion and role that can be useful for any role. For example, support players are responsible for warding. Constantly checking your minimap and setting up vision control can be mastered by playing support. This information can be implemented to other roles as well. In conclusion, by playing various roles and champions, you can make connections between them, and in turn, this gives you new variables to play around with to get out of your plateau. Well, that was a lot of information. However, keeping these few tips in mind, you'll actually be able to reach new heights in League of Legends. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.